All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, we're going to be talking some Jets off season, right? It's coming up. It's actually here. And I'm joined by my buddy Jake from the Jake Asman Show. Jake, how are you, man?
Ian, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on your show. You came on my show, so we're doing the old home and home, which is always fun.
Yeah, no, it was a blast, and it definitely won't be the last either. But we're looking at free agency, right? And really, the first step is identifying who you want to bring back to the team, the unrestricted free agents, and the Jets. The Jets actually have quite a few. Okay, a couple guys that have had some solid seasons, nice pickups, good players that I feel like could be here for the long term. Some guys veterans, some guys younger. Who are some players that you want to see this Jets team bring back?
I start with Braxton Barrios. He obviously had a phenomenal season. He was an all-pro kick returner. Amazing that he's a all-pro as a kick returner, but somehow didn't get voted into the Pro Bowl. That's a bit of a flawed system, I would say, NFL. But Braxton Barrios, for what he could do as a receiver, as a runner, playmaker, outstanding chemistry with Zach Wilson. He's tough. He doesn't drop passes. The Jets don't have enough good players. He's a really good player. So I start with him and say, you got to bring this guy back. And then, George Fant, he's got an option for around $10.5 million. Look, he had a phenomenal year. Is he better than Mekhi Becton? No, I wouldn't go that far, but he proved that he could be a legitimate starting tackle in this league. And with Becton coming back off injury, you can never have enough good depth at the tackle spots. George Fant earned the right to be on this team. I think it's a no-brainer they pick up his options. So those are the two I look at and say it is a must for Joe Douglas to ensure they're back on this team in 2022.
Yeah, like we were saying on your stream, an hour or just a little bit ago, I think we both agree with Braxton Barrios, of course. I mean, he definitely deserves to be back. But LTD is a guy that I feel like the Jets should bring back on like a cheap 1-year deal. Obviously, there's some different career paths that he can take outside of football. But what's kind of your viewpoint on the backup quarterback spot? Because both Flacco and Mike White are set to hit the open market. Would you bring both back, one back, just let them both walk and bring in somebody new? What's your take?
Yeah, my preference, I guess, would be to bring Mike White back. I believe he's a restricted free agent, so the Jets could match another offer that he gets. I just think, look, you want your backup quarterback to be able to come in and win you a game. I look at it like this. If your starting quarterback goes out and he has to miss, let's say, 4 games, is your backup good enough where you could go 500? You can go 2-2. I think Mike White proved he can be. He proved he knows this offense. He can make the throws necessary to be successful. He's young enough where you think there's still upside and he's getting better. I think you look to bring that type of guy back. Now, if they moved on from Mike White and they said, hey, we want Joe Flacco to come back, I'm good with that as well, because it seems like Flacco and Zach Wilson got along really well. We know Joe Flacco is a seasoned vet. He's seen a lot of different things. He can come in and play in a pinch. So I'm okay with whatever they do at backup. My preference would be, though, you definitely want to keep at least one of those guys because you've invested in them. You might as well continue to invest in them and bring them back and allow Zach Wilson to have some guys in that quarterback room that know the offense that could help him going forward.
Dude, you literally took all the words out of my mouth. I was going to, I was thinking like, oh, what am I going to add? But you literally hit every nail right on the head. So awesome stuff. But Morgan Moses, what about him? 1-year deal in the offseason. We're looking at tackle. Becton obviously missed the entire year outside of week 1. George Fant, we both agree. Awesome player. Love him. He's actually my favorite player on the offense. But Morgan Moses is still a solid player. Now, of course, there's still free agency in the draft, but we have to make that decision. Unfortunately, we can't draft a tackle and then make that Morgan Moses decision. Would you bring him back?
I would absolutely try to bring him back. My fear with Moses is he played really well this year. Like, he had a very good season, despite the fact, he was kind of brought in, well after the draft a year ago. I think he was signed in like mid-June, which is like very rare for a player of his caliber to be signed that late. I think he's going to have offers to be a starter somewhere. And what's complicated with the Jets situation is I think Fant's a must. We talked about that. And then you have Becton coming back. And Becton, when he's out there, let's not forget, Jet fans, this guy's a really good player. And obviously, the Jets are going to be banking on him coming back healthy and being a part of this team going forward. So I would try and bring back Morgan Moses, but that could be one of those, one of those types of players that hits the open market and gets an opportunity to make more money elsewhere. And the Jets won't be able to pay that kind of money to a guy that, in theory, would be the swing tackle, the backup going into next season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, man, the whole Becton injury thing is crazy because, it wasn't just the injury in week 1. It was the plantar fasciitis. It was the concussion. Like, you know, and you could even make the argument, hey, will Becton come back and be the same player? That's number one. If he does, will he get hurt again? And if so, when? So I think with Mekhi Becton, I love him. He's an absolute stud. He's a beast, and I want him to be healthy for the long term, as many Jets fans, would agree. But I think right now we just have to have that insurance policy at both tackle positions. But we transition to free agency. Okay. The Jets obviously have a lot of money in cap space. They're not a top 3 team or anything like that, but we definitely have enough to add some marquee players. What are the positions that you think the Jets, number one, should target? And then out of those positions, are there any names that you're looking to bring in?
So I look at free agency like this, and it's very tough this early on to always know like who's going to hit the market, like who's going to get franchise tagged, like who's going to be re-signed, right? Like I keep hearing Allen Robinson's name a year ago from Jet fans. Well, he got franchise tagged, so he wasn't available. Oh, Devontae Adams. You really think the Packers are going to let him go? So I think you got to be realistic about players that are likely to hit the market. The guy I look at the tight end spot is Dalton Schultz, because the Cowboys have so many high-priced players on their roster. They're not going to be able to keep everyone. I expect him to hit the market. I hope the Jets are really aggressive, pay the guy whatever it takes to bring him in and be that answer at tight end that this franchise has been missing for such a long time. I mean, when was the last time the Jets had a really good tight end? Dustin Keller? Like, that's a long time ago. You got a second-year quarterback in Zach Wilson that would immensely benefit from having a reliable option you could check the ball down to over the middle. Plus, Schultz is a playmaker, man. He's a good blocker, but he's an excellent playmaker, and the Jets don't have enough of those type of players. So I look at Dalton Schultz at tight end, and then I think safeties usually hit the market in free agency as well. So the guys I'm looking at is Jesse Bates from the Bengals, Justin Reed, who I like a lot, who's on the Houston Texans, who I think is a very underrated player, and Marcus Williams, another safety that I think could hit the market from the Saints. So those are the 3 I'm looking at. I think tight end and safety should absolutely be addressed in free agency, and then that allows you to have some more options by the time you get to the draft. If you want to take Trey McBride in the second round, if he's there, imagine him with Dalton Schultz, what you could do in this offense with LaFleur calling the plays for Zach Wilson. I think that would be just an incredible haul for the Jets if they could pull something like that off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think with tight end too, I know you talked about Schultz, and he's kind of like, I would say right now, like the headliner for the tight end, projected free agents. But I think it's deep, man. Like David Njoku, I feel like can play. Mike Gesicki is like my number one guy at the tight end position that could be on the market, unless, of course, Miami locks him up. But who knows? Like we don't even know what scheme they're going to be running because they fired Flores. Who else? Hayden Hurst is another potential option. And then at safety, you talked about Jesse Bates, and he's actually one of my favorite. He's like a top 5 favorite player, like in the league for me, just as like a fan of football. You talked about Marcus Williams. Where do you stand on like handing out? I mean, I don't really know what your thoughts are as far as like positional value, where you should delegate money, but there's a lot of people that are pretty much against handing out like a big contract, like a 4-year deal to the safety position. Where do you stand with that? Because I don't feel like Marcus Williams would come in and sign, a 1-year, $6 million deal. You'd probably have to hand out like a long-term deal with, a bunch of security and a bunch of money. Would you be comfortable doing that?
I think it depends on how they evaluate the players' fit in Saleh's defensive scheme. Because I think you got to also remember that this team has money to spend. If you want good players, you got to spend money. So, in free agency, you're naturally going to be overpaying. But if you're paying for guys that are durable, or you're paying for guys that are going on their second contract, not necessarily their third contract, I think you could live with the overspend. Like the Jets in free agency under Douglas, they've gone after guys that are around 25, 26 years old, going on their second contract. I could live with overpaying for a guy like Bates. He's a team captain, leader, ball hawk. I think he fits the scheme really well. Same thing with a guy like Justin Reed, who probably will be a lot cheaper than Jesse Bates. So I'm open to addressing safety in free agency. I think if you have this money, you might as well spend the money. And then that gives you so many more options by the time you get to the draft and you're sitting there with 4 picks in the top 40.
Right on. Yeah. Tracy Walker is another guy from Detroit who I really, really like. I feel like he's just underrated, not only just, through his time with Detroit, but also like as a projected free agent. But we look at the draft, and the beauty of being a team that only had 4 wins and not much talent is that you can really go in a bunch of different directions. You can go with edge, O-line, wide receiver, safety, corner, outside linebacker, like the list goes on and on. But the Jets have a lot of picks. Okay, two 1s, 2 2s, 2 4s, a high third. What are you thinking right now? And again, it's such a tough question to ask because we don't know what exactly Jacksonville and Houston are going to be doing at the coaching spots. We don't know what schemes they're going to be implementing. But initial thoughts, mid-January thoughts. What are you thinking about 4 and 10? We had the report come out that the 10th pick could be Dell, that the Jets would prefer to do it. We'll see what happens. But as we stand today, 4 and 10, owned by the Jets, what would you do?
Well, I could be really easy and I could just say, pick some good football players, Joe Douglas, but I think that's obvious to every Jet fan that is watching this. Look, they need to nail these picks. My philosophy as of now, before I see what they do in free agency, Ian, would be either draft someone that gets after the quarterback or draft someone that helps the quarterback with those two top 10 picks. Meaning, I'm all about edge rusher at 4. If Thibodeau or Hutchinson somehow were to fall, that's a run to the podium moment if you're Joe Douglas and the Jets. But I'm open to George Karlaftis, the edge rusher from Purdue, with that number 4 pick. I'm open to them certainly trading down and getting more picks, but I'd like them to be very aggressive, target premium positions. Edge rushers, offensive line help, whether it be tackle or center. Evan Neal would be intriguing because you could play him at guard for the year, assuming Fant and Becton are your 2 tackles for next year. And then you also look at the number 10 spot. Hey, helping the quarterback means getting him playmakers. If Traylon Burks is there, or Drake London, or Garrett Wilson, whoever the Jets really identify as the best wide receiver on the board, if they went wide receiver with the 10th pick, you would hear zero complaints from me. I think they need to do whatever it takes to either get after the quarterback or help the quarterback with those premium picks they got in the top 10.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the defense has just been atrocious. Literally dead last in football. I mean, they allow, I think, right around that 30-point mark. I mean, that's horrible. I mean, that has to get better. You can't expect a year 2 quarterback in Zach Wilson with not that much help around him to put up a ton of points when the defense is that bad. So I think addressing the defense early, I mean, it needs to be done, but I mean, also you have to make Zach Wilson's life easier. I think that's obvious, but we're looking at free agency, the draft. How do you feel about trading away a high pick? I'm not necessarily talking about 4, but maybe 10, one of those second round picks, for a proven player, maybe a wide receiver. So that way you don't have to take one at 10. If you can trade pick 38 to the Falcons for Calvin Ridley, maybe Amari Cooper, there's going to be some names out there to watch as far as trades are concerned at the wide receiver spot. How do you feel about trading one of those premium picks for a proven player?
I would be 100% in favor of doing it. Now, it can't be crazy. Like, I'm not trading the 10th overall pick for Calvin Ridley. I think that is way too much to bring in a guy that has some mental health issues going on. So he's got to get that cleared and figured out before you even consider trading for him. But this guy barely played last year, and he's only under contract for 1 more year. So you can't give up the 10th overall pick for Ridley. But I'd be willing to listen about pick 35, pick 38 in the second round. I'd be willing to even be aggressive and trade back into the first round if there's a receiver that's falling that they really identify as a can't miss type of playmaker. Even if it's Trey McBride, who's starting to get some hype as a late first round pick at the tight end spot. So I'm very open to the Jets being aggressive. Joe Douglas talked about the flexibility he has. He seemingly was willing to listen to offers of trading draft picks for proven players. You look at the Bills, they got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. The Cardinals got Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you got to be aggressive and help your young quarterback by getting them bona fide playmakers so that young quarterback could take the next step. So if I'm the Jets, I'm copying what the Bills did. I'm copying what the Cardinals did, and I'm doing whatever it takes to help Zach Wilson, get playmakers around him to get to the next level.
Yeah, so I think we're both, it's a great point. I think we're both in agreement that free agency is all about, filling needs. And then that way, if you fill the needs, you can now attack the draft with with the best players. You don't have to reach for a guy. You don't have to say, oh, well, we desperately need an edge, but there's really no good edge players here. So now we have to go for the 5th best guy. Situations like that. If I could, or I guess if you could have one move, just one move of the free agent or of the offseason locked in, what would it be? Free agency, the draft, trade, doesn't matter. One move, but realistic. So obviously not like, Devontae Adams, because I think we both think he's going to be back with Green Bay, but
Right.
one realistic move.
Yeah, I mean, this is tricky because, do I say, oh, you trade for Calvin Ridley and like, I'm assuming Ridley's 2020 Ridley and he's great. Like, yeah, that'd be great, but is that realistic? I'm not so sure. I would say, you know what? Let's sign Dalton Schultz. You have money. get the best tight end on the market, fill a massive need, allow Zach Wilson to have his version of George Kittle in this LaFleur Shanahan style offense, get a really reliable, good blocking tight end that can make plays. Safety is important, receiver is important. You have the draft for a lot of this stuff. I think if they could sign Dalton Schultz, it opens them up to have so many more options on what they could do from a receiving standpoint. And really, they don't necessarily then need to go tight end in the second round. They could wait till the third or fourth round and get some of these other guys that are coming out that look like really good players. So I think Dalton Schultz, if I could have one move, that's the guy I'm looking to bring in because I think he'd be such a big difference maker for this offense going forward.
Dalton Schultz, Dallas Cowboys. Love it, man. Well, hey, I appreciate the time. I know you're a busy guy. And yeah, we definitely have to do it again.
Anytime the GOAT of Jets content wants to have me on their show, you make time. Thanks for having me, Ian.
I appreciate the kind words, man. Cool. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.